Okay, sounds good. All right, here we go. Yeah, so as I said, I'm Lippy. I work very closely with Charles in our user engagement group. Charles and I are really interested and focused on the new user experience in general. If you have any thoughts about what you're hearing today, what you're seeing today, we do have a survey for both days, individual surveys we'd love for you to fill out, but you can always also just message us on Slack or email us. We always want to hear from you all. So during the session today, we're going to talk a little bit about your account setup. Some of you may have done this already, so I'm going to try not to really, bore you to death with it. But in case you haven't, or we have some policies that you weren't aware of, we'll go through that. We're going to talk about something called Iris, which is sort of I like to call it our lab notebook. It's like a way of keeping track of your compute hours, what you've been running, so forth. There is an Iris maintenance happening right now. I was able to log in earlier. Sometimes you can still sort of use things, and it's not really an issue. But we'll just do what we can. We're going to talk about connecting to Perlmutter. We're going to watch a fantastic video about it. Quickly talk about something called Jupyter. We have a whole session about Jupyter tomorrow. And so we'll go more into, I'll do like a live demo of that. Mention ThinLink. And then we're going to go a little bit more into detail about user tickets, documentation, and our homepage because we basically have several different, websites that you should be aware of. They all kind of serve very different functions. So we'd like you to know what each of those do. Okay, so for account setup, like I said, many of you may have your account already, but just so you understand, there's basically two types of accounts at NERSC. So there's your private account, so the account that is just, for me, it's my username. I have the authentication information as in my password, and it authorizes me to use certain resources. If you are in a situation where you don't have one of those yet, whoever you're working with is your PI or principal investigator, or they are part of a NERSC project, which I'm going to mention in a moment. They'll be able to send you a link to get an account. So that's one type of account. Second type of account is really what we call a project. As sort of briefly mentioned, the Department of Energy gives projects time to use our system. Your PI may have applied to the Department of Energy saying, "Hey, I want to do this research," and they say, "Great, that sounds wonderful. Here's 1,000 hours to use at NERSC." So it's sort of like your bank account that you use to pay for computing time. Again, you're not paying, there's no money involved. It's just the way that we kind of keep track of how much of the resources that you've been allocated have you used. And there's a kind of well, it's not confusing, but there's a formula involved for how you get charged for things. Because, for example, if you're only using like part of a node, as you saw earlier, there's, multiple GPUs and multiple, or two CPUs. If you're just using part of it, you're not getting charged quite as much as let's say you're using, you know, all all of the node and you're using half the machine or something, right? If you're interested more in what that looks like, I'm not sure if we go super into detail about it, but of course, I'll say this multiple times. Our documentation has a lot of information on that, and we can point you to that if you need help with that. You're all going to be on at least one project. You may actually be on more than one project. Sometimes you're working with, a large collaboration, but you have your own little allocation as well through some other group. And you're going to charge different accounts for your compute. So sometimes you'll be charging one account, sometimes you'll charge another account. You have a default project though. So if you don't specify, and again, we'll go more into detail on how you do the specification when you actually go to submit your job. If for some reason you don't, you'll always charge your default project. And we'll actually show you how to set that default project or see even which one is that default project in a moment when we talk about Iris. So those are the two different types of accounts to sort of know about. Before you even get into the system, you're going to actually agree to two different things. One is our appropriate use policy. So this is just basically stating some of the rules that you are agreeing to when you use the machine. And if at any point you do something that goes against this appropriate use policy, there may be some repercussion to that. I don't know specifically, but there's ways to deal with that. So in general, if you're concerned, you're like one of the things Rebecca said, it's supposed to be open science. So if at any point you're working on something that's like classified or something, and you find yourself using NERSC for it, that's not appropriate. You shouldn't be doing that on our system and so forth. So the whole this is just like the very top of this agreement. It's a really long uh, uh, document and it's available on our website. But you also, if you've already used the system, you've already agreed to this because before you're even able to get on the system, when you go to Iris, it will pop up and say, "Hey, do you agree to this?" So if you agreed and you don't remember what you agreed to, you're welcome to go and read this. Another thing that we have is a code of conduct. We're one of the first, if maybe not the only, facility that has one of these code of conducts. In general, a lot of these facilities, people are on the system and they're not really interacting with each other. Like the humans are not really interacting with each other. But we really encourage our users to interact with each other. We have our Slack space, we have our regular community calls, we have these training events. We'd really like for you to learn from each other, help each other, ask each other questions because, I mean, from my experience as a scientist, that's how I learned the best when I was working closely with other people. But with that comes the challenge of, hey, how do we treat each other in these spaces? We're not going to be, disrespectful to people if they ask a question. We're going to be supportive, helpful, so forth. And so you also have agreed to this code of conduct if you are using the system. And therefore, this code of conduct applies in basically any environment where you're interacting with other NERSC users or staff. So if you're curious about what that code of conduct looks like, please feel free to take a look again on our website and read through it. Um, Great. Okay. So now that you've agreed to our policies, you're ready to get on the system. One of the most important things is obviously security, making sure that only the people who are supposed to be on the system are in fact on the system. And one of the main ways we do that is by having secure passwords. So you will set a password every year. I think I just reset I reset mine this morning because I think it just expired maybe in the last couple days. And so it will expire once a year. It's really, really important that you set a good password. We don't actually stipulate what that looks like, so we don't say it needs to be this long or anything like that. But we really ask that you do a good job of setting something that's secure. Good password is kind of very difficult to guess. A bad password is, nurse password or my password or something like that. Anything that's really obvious. Um, it's also extremely important that you do not share your passwords. You don't email, Slack, text, literally tell somebody else your password. It doesn't matter if they're your collaborator. It doesn't matter if they're your friend. It doesn't matter if it's your, you know, spouse. None of those things are appropriate for sharing your password. If someone needs an account, they can get their own account. There is a way to do that. So please do not share passwords ever. If you're trying to log in and you're having trouble, um, you can try up to 5 times before you kind of get locked out of the system. It's not the end of the world. Of course, you can always reach out to us. You can go into Iris. Again, we'll talk about Iris in a moment. It can clear login failures. There's also a place there where it has like a forgot my password button. So if there's ever any doubt, you try once or twice and you're like, oh shoot, I think I don't remember what my password is. You can always go there and just reset your password. And sometimes it can take a few minutes to reset. Like with many things, it just needs a little time to update. I actually reset my password this morning and it was really fast. So if you're resetting your password and it doesn't work like immediately, just give it 10, 20 minutes, maybe wait. And then if it's still not working for some reason, you're welcome to reach out to us. And we're going to show you again how that ticketing system works. But hopefully you can do a lot of this actually on your own without our help. We cannot see your password. That's the other thing. So if you send us an email or you submit a ticket, you're like, hey, what's my password? We absolutely cannot help you. We just have to say, hey, okay, we're gonna you need to reset your password. Another really important part of security is setting what's called a multi-factor authentication, MFA. You will be using this MFA quite a bit. So make sure of course, you have to set this up, and we're going to show you how to set it up in Iris. Um, but you're going to use it to log into the system pretty regularly, unless you set up SSH proxy, which you'll still do every day. So this is really important. As you can see here, there was some supercomputers that were misappropriated by bad actors. MFA is just one more way that we can keep our system really secure. I actually sometimes get random people trying to like break into various accounts. Like one time, someone was trying to get into my Discord account, and I could see them trying over and over again, but I was getting the MFA, and they couldn't get into my system. So that was really amazing. So that wasn't Perlmutter, but it was something else. So MFA is a really powerful way to keep your accounts safe in general. And you are required to have an MFA at NERSC. Um, okay, so we've mentioned Iris several times. This whole MFA thing is going to be set up in Iris. So what is Iris? It's kind of like a lab notebook for nurse. That's how I like to describe it. It's a way, so it's going to do your password management. It's going to do this MFA management. It keeps track of tons of information for you. So it keeps track of all your compute. It keeps track of, how much storage space you have available, what projects you're in. You can check, your job history, the hours charged, all these kinds of things. So we're going to try and see if Iris lets me, like I said, they are doing a maintenance right now. So we're going to see if this works. Let's see. So here I am in Iris. Let me zoom in a little bit. So the website is iris.nurse.gov. And uh, I'm going to try to log in. So like I said, there's a couple buttons here. There's a forgot username button. There's a or forgot password button, forgot username button, and if something goes wrong with your MFA. So there's several different, for one of the first lines of defense when it comes to like, I can't get into my account is, well, can you access Iris? Like go to Iris, see if you need to reset your password, something like that. One of the best things to do first before you reach out to us, because that's the other thing is it takes a little bit of time for us to get back to you. Um, we use something called federated ID. So you're going to choose your institution. It will be NERSC. And let's see, I think yeah, because I reset this morning. So hopefully this is going to be correct. And then I'm going to access my MFA, which I do through the Google Authenticator app. And oops, why is this not typing in? Oh, can I do it in time? Nope, I missed it. It resets. So if you haven't used MFA before, it resets every 30 seconds. Oops, I didn't like my. Let's see if I can even do this. If I can't get in, it might be because, okay, so if this is actually because of the I think this is because of the maintenance and not because of me, because I know I'm typing this in correctly. So shoot, we may not be able to log into Iris right now. All right, we can try again later. But let's see. Do I have any screenshots of Iris in here? No, I don't. Um, Okay, well, let's come back to that in a minute and see. In the meantime, actually, if somebody else wants to try to get into Iris, maybe just see if you're able to get it, because then we'll know, is it actually a me problem or is it the maintenance?
Yeah, I'm trying and it is not even, it's just spinning.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so
I,
unfortunately, it sounds
I
like
was
we're not
logged
going to
in
be able to.
earlier this morning.
Third,
I got into it earlier this morning too, so
yeah,
sorry.
30 was available. It just started at maintenance, and now it's 503 service temporary
Yeah,
unavailable.
darn it. Okay, we just missed it. Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, that's okay. We can also show you again, like tomorrow or later today. We'll try again before the end of the session. But it's actually, I mean, it's pretty well set up. There's a place in there to go and set up MFA and so forth. We also have really good, well, I'll go into the documentation in a minute and I think I can show you in there actually how to do these things in Iris because again, we have the whole process documented. So we'll get there. All right. Thanks for answering.
Scheduled maintenance window is ends at 11 today.
Okay, so we might get in there by the end. Cool. Okay, so in the meantime, let's talk about connecting to NERSC. That said, it seems like we may not be able to get onto Perlmutter either. Um, I didn't realize that there was going to be a couple maintenances happening right now. Let's see. Because the center status page is not working for me. Does anyone know? That's okay. We don't need to technically be able to access Perlmutter right this moment to understand how to log in, but okay. So I really love first giving this example. So how many of you have seen this movie called The Martian? It's about Matt Damon uh, getting stuck on Mars. Has anyone seen this movie? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, actually, I can't see any hands, so I don't know if anyone's saying they have seen it, but
We've had people say, yeah.
okay, cool. I absolutely love this movie. It's extremely accurate in a lot of ways, and then it's extremely inaccurate in a couple ways. So one of the things that it shows is Donald Glover's character here, who is an astrophysicist. He's doing some calculations, and he needs to use the supercomputer at NASA. And so he takes his laptop and he sort of hooks it up to one of the server racks with some random cable. And this, I almost had like a brain aneurysm when I watched this because this is so not how you connect to a supercomputer. I think it's absolutely hilarious. And I also love that at the end he has this thing that tells him his calculations are correct, which is I also think it's hilarious because like how is he validating this? Anyways, this whole scene just drove me absolutely mad, even though I love this movie. So really what I want to remind everyone is this is absolutely not the way to connect to an HPC resource. So if you're ever watching a movie where anyone in a movie is like walking into a data center to like plug their laptop into something, please scream at them. So this is not to do. What you do want to do is way easier. And to learn about it, we're gonna watch this amazing video. Let me make sure that my sound is gonna work for this. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's see. This is our dear friend Lisa. She's one of our colleagues, and she's gonna tell us how to log into Perlmutter.
Welcome to NERSC. In this video, you will learn how to log into NERSC systems. NERSC is the Scientific Computing Center at Berkeley Lab, the national lab with the best views, as you can see. NERSC is located on the beautiful hills here in Berkeley, and our current system is called Perlmutter. My name is Lisa, I'm a performance engineer at NERSC, and I will guide you through the process of logging into Perlmutter with the SSH command. To get started, we need to open the terminal. If you are unfamiliar with using a terminal, you can learn more through the HPC Carpentries workshop that's linked in the video description below. Also, make sure you know your NERSC username and your password and have your MFA or multi-factor authenticator app set up. If you don't have any of those available, check out our documentation at docs.nersc.gov/getting started. All right, I think we are ready. I open my terminal and type SSH, and then my NERSC username is Elvis. So I type Elvis at perlmutter.nersc.gov. If this is too long for you, you can replace Perlmutter with Sol. Fun fact, Perlmutter is named in honor of Sol Perlmutter, an astrophysicist at Berkeley Lab. He insisted on giving users the option of using Sol instead of Perlmutter to log in, since Sol is quicker to type than Perlmutter. Now hit the Enter key, and if this is your first time signing on to Perlmutter, you will be asked to add an RSA fingerprint. Please type yes and press the Enter key. The fingerprint will be added, and in future you will not be asked again. Now you will be asked for your password and your OTP. OTP stands for one-time password. The OTP is obtained from the multi-factor authenticator app. It will be a 6-digit number that changes every 30 seconds. If your password is, for example, ABCDEF, and the OTP is 919595. Type in ABCDEF 919595 and press the Enter key. Yay, congrats, you made it. You are now logged into Permeter. To be precise, you are in a Permeter login node. If you encounter any issues logging in, check out our documentation on troubleshooting or submit a ticket to the NERSC help desk. If you have comments or requests for additional videos, contact us at nersc-user-videos@lbl.gov.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so yes, just as we mentioned, it's extremely easy. You do not need any cables and you do not need to go into the data center. So the only things you need are a text terminal program and the internet. So here's a couple options depending on what kind of computer you're using. So with Mac, there's a built-in terminal, or you can get a fancy one. On Windows, you would probably need to use PuTTY. Some people like to use this MOBA Xterm. There's actually, it sounds like there's several options. I haven't actually used any of them. No, I've used PuTTY like a long time ago. Linux, of course, there's a million. Choose your favorite. Interestingly enough, Chromebook apparently has a text terminal. I've never used a Chromebook, but apparently that's an option as well. So these are the only things you need, and make sure you have those things set up, and then you should be able to log in no problems. Another way to log into our system is by using Jupyter. So like I mentioned, tomorrow we're going to go into a deep dive into what is Jupyter, how do you use it. I'm pretty sure there's no maintenance tomorrow, so we're going to do like a live demo of how to use it, what are all the different options. But this is another way that you can log into our system and have also a terminal, but also kind of an interactive environment, especially if you're using notebooks of any kind, not just Python notebooks, R, and several other types of things as well. So we're going to talk more about that tomorrow, but this is a nice way to log into our systems from a web browser. And it's actually one of my favorite ways to log in. So more about that tomorrow. Next, I want to talk quickly about running GUI-based applications on Perlmutter. There's a couple that folks do use. MATLAB is one of them. So if you use MATLAB, then there's a couple. There's DDT, which is a debugging tool, and Nsight. So this is like the NVIDIA performance tool. So if you are doing any kind of GPU programming, you will probably want to know, are you using the GPU, in a good way? Is it optimized? So you may be using one of these GUIs. And in general, over a network, so using a GUI on Perlmutter could be very painfully slow, unless we sort of do something about it. And we have done that in order to make it easier for our users. The reason it's really slow is because the protocol that basically shows you what's being run in the GUI that's running on our system, it has to cross between our really nice fast internet that's running on the system into your internet. And in general, our internet, I mean, even I have a gigabit speed internet, is extremely slow relative to the speeds that we have for our system. So that process is a huge bottleneck, and it really slows down, the process of using a GUI, because now you have to wait and your cursor is moving around and so forth. So what we have is there's a lot of these forwarding clients where they're able to run the GUI server on our system on Perlmutter, and then just forward you what it's seeing. And so it's sending a lot less data over the slow internet as opposed to the huge amount of data over the slow internet. And so in general, this makes things a lot faster and easier for you. So there's a lot of different types of forwarding clients that do this accelerated X being the any kind of viewing, GUI based type thing that you do on a system. And the one that we use is called ThinLink. So in general, it's actually pretty easy to set up. You're going to download the client from the website. We give you the link, so you make sure you download the correct one. And then the best way to do this is to just follow line by line the instructions on our documentation. So this is like a screenshot of the documentation. But the cool thing is there's actually a video showing like the process of downloading it and setting it up. And the installation instructions here are also very, very clear. So if you do think you're going to be using any kind of X forwarding, please install ThinLink, and it'll make your life much easier, and do so by using our documentation. Okay. I haven't really paused for any questions. Are there any questions at any point? Okay. And I haven't checked the Q&A, but hopefully someone has been keeping an eye on it. Great. Okay, so now in general, if you need help and something has gone wrong, there's a couple different things you can do. We're going to talk about submitting user tickets. I think I might be talking about that before I talk about the documentation, but as Rebecca mentioned, we do have this incredible documentation that I'll mention that you should actually probably check first, because most likely your answer or your question is answered in there. But let's say you're really confused, or you don't even know what part of the documentation you need to look at or whatever. So you might need to submit one of these tickets. So the help portal is very conveniently called help.ners.gov. You can go there and do a couple different things. Rebecca showed there's a button to get to our documentation. So this is a kind of a reminder like, hey, the thing you need help with might already be in there. So check that out. Then we have our tickets. We'll talk about that in a second. And then we have some requests as well. Requests are things like kind of standard things that we do. So, for example, there is a storage quota, and we're going to talk about storage systems next. One of the storage options, you get a certain amount of space on it, but there might be times when you actually need a little bit more, and you can just request it by using this form. And so it tells us exactly, like you fill out the form, and that helps us know exactly, what you need and why you need it and so forth. So not only can you submit tickets like open-ended tickets, we also have these um, request forms. So when you click on this open request here, it'll take you to this web page here. And for example, probably one of the more common ones is the storage quota request. Another one might be if you're using VASP. I think there might be, I thought there was, yeah, VASP license confirmation request. So this is like if you need to use VASP, it's one of the proprietary softwares. So you have to basically confirm that you have access to it. So that's also something that you can do through a request form. So now it's time, you're actually going to file a ticket. Tickets are open-ended, so you can just type in kind of whatever you want to type in. And so one of the things that is sort of our mission as consultants, myself and a lot of my colleagues, is to help you file a good ticket so that we can help you quicker. I think last week or whenever I was on call last, I got a ticket that was just like 3 or 4 words, and it just said like XYZ thing isn't working. And I was like, I had to ask all these different questions. I was like, what were you doing? Where were you? Like I asked all these questions versus if you keep in mind, like, hey, they're going to need all this information, then I can immediately start investigating as opposed to like waiting for you to respond to me again. Okay. So in general, pasting a bare error message is not helpful. Screenshots are not helpful. Things that are helpful are the whole error message with the command. So like, what did you do that produced this error message? Maybe a job ID if you were running a specific job. Locations. We can access files from your account. But we also appreciate sometimes if you just send us the files. Usually I prefer that people send me the files, so you can also attach them as attachments to your ticket. Tell us what modules you're using. Again, if you don't know what any of these things mean, don't worry. We're going to talk about all of them. If you do, please remember to do these things because it helps us a lot faster. It helps us help you a lot faster. In general, be more specific. So, like I said, last week I had some tickets that were like, my code is slow, my job won't start. They said like this thing is slow. And I was like, well, what are you using? Like, tell me more, what is happening? So, the this job ID, normally it runs X fast and now it's running this fast. This is my job script, it's not working anymore. I'm trying to run, this thing and it's crashing with this error message. It's located here. In general, more information is more helpful to us. We are able to parse parts of error messages that will be relevant and what isn't relevant. So if you post the whole thing, like if you copy and paste the whole thing and it's super long and you're like, oh, this is going to be confusing, don't worry. Post the whole thing and we can parse the parts of it that we actually need to. Fun fact, this person is a really good singer. I didn't know that until recently, but the woman from this meme, she's a really, really good singer. Okay, now, like we mentioned a couple times, we really want you to use our documentation. And actually, our documentation is the colors have changed slightly. So this is our documentation. It's docs.nurse.gov. On my computer, I barely type, DO or something, and it immediately comes up because I'm always on the docs. We have all kinds of information here. There's a search bar that works pretty well. So in general, if you're struggling, you don't even know which part of the documentation, this is sort of the table of contents over here. You can just start typing it into the search bar and it will probably find it for you. One thing that I always plug is our beginner's guide. I plug it because I wrote it. This is for like absolute beginners. If you're totally brand new to NERSC and HPC, it is kind of long, I will say. But there's a lot of information here and it's meant to be really new user friendly. So I hope that's useful to you. We also have a quick start page. Actually, this page is in the process of being updated. I'm waiting for some final approval, but then we'll get this updated. And so it should be, again, a really quick start kind of guide to get you up and running, especially for those of you who have HPC experience, but are just new to NERSC, right? So you just need some policy information and so forth. Another thing I just want to remind everybody is that our docs are hosted here on GitLab, and everybody can participate, anybody can contribute. So there is some information about how to contribute. Sorry, this is probably really small for you all. So if you are a user and you find something is confusing or whatever, you are actually able to contribute. I mean, there's a process, and we read it, and you will submit a merge request. But you can do that, and we love it when users help us with our documentation, because the documentation, I mean, it's for us, but it's really also mostly for the users. So another really great thing is we have a lot of like how-to guides. In general, when you're ready, you're like, okay, now I'm connecting. I'm having trouble connecting. Like I mentioned here, there's the thin link instructions. So this is literally the screenshot that I had for you all. When you're trying to set up your MFA, we weren't able to get into Iris, but there is detailed instructions here on how to do that. So once you are able to access Iris, you can just follow these instructions exactly. A lot of really good information here on, probably everything that you might want to do on our system. Let's see, is there anything else specifically that I wanted to show? Yeah, we have a lot of how-to guides, so let me see if I can navigate to one of these. Let's see. I think there's a whole section about oops. Yeah, a lot of people are doing like machine learning, so there's a lot of like information on how to do machine learning on our system. Let's see here. I think there's a whole thing about Python, but I don't remember where exactly it is, because a lot of people are using Python on our systems. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's a little buried, but here it is. So so a lot of you are probably going to be using Python, and we have a whole training category on that today. But again, lots of guides, setting up Python, parallelism, so forth. So any of these topics that um, you know, will be amazing. Like all this good information on, what's the difference between Python at NERSC and on your laptop, using containers and so forth. I mean, just all the information in the world. So, yeah, I suggest spending time getting familiar with the documentation, especially if you already know what applications you're going to be running, if you know what kinds of workflows you're going to be doing. Spend some time here in the documentation, finding the information you need so that you can be up and running in no time. And one more thing I want to show is this JavaScript generator. So this is a really cool thing where you can, so we're going to talk about jobs a little bit later, but at some point you're going to learn about, or if you don't already, the way that you submit like calculation to the system to say, hey, okay, like please go run this, and it'll save your files for you. You're going to submit what's called a JavaScript, and this is sort of a tool that can help you figure out how to actually do that, how to write your JavaScript. And so if you're ever, there's a lot of example jobs here, but if you're kind of stuck and you're like, oh, well, none of these example jobs really work for me, you could always try the JavaScript generator and see if that'll work for you. And so that's here in our documentation. Okay, so I think that's everything for documentation. Any questions so far? And let me see. No questions. Okay, sounds good. And all right, so then the last thing is
The container is available, and the answer is no.
no, we don't do singularity containers anymore. Now they are Shifter, Podman,
Right.
Podman, HPC. There is so we will talk. I don't remember. Is the does Justin's talk go a little bit into containers, Charles?
Just a
Highly
little
be.
bit,
Just a little bit.
but it's
Hey,
not, that's more advanced for us.
Yeah. Okay.
hey, Lippy. This is Dr. Saravanan. So we
Hi.
used a shifter. We used a shifter in Perlmutter. Yeah.
Yeah, shifter. Okay, good. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I was.
Mhm.
It's funny because some of these words float around in my brain and I don't remember which ones exactly. So, okay, shifter.
Shifter Podman
It's a NERSC version of shifter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Based on Docker.
based on Docker. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, I don't know what AVX SSE instructions are, so I cannot answer that question. Um, Okay, great. So we're going to move on to our last topic for this part of the talk, which is our nurse.gov website. So real fast, this is what nurse.gov looks like. This is kind of our general website. So this is just like news. We have like events, training events are all on here. So I have a couple things highlighted. I'll actually just go through it in our slides because I sort of updated this. So this is more general information. You're not going to find technical detail and technical documentation. It'll be like this is supposed to be news articles and like policy information here. One thing that is really, really important that I highly recommend everybody check out frequently is our events calendar. For the most part, a lot of these events are going to be training events. As mentioned, we have tons of training events, but we have all kinds of things. We have office hours, we have some talks, a couple different things going on, and you can always compare and find out what's going on. I took the screenshot yesterday, so you can see here's our new user training from today. And the best thing you can do once you're, you want to attend something is you can add it to your calendar. I use my calendar for everything, so that's probably a good tip. Oh, whoops, I forgot to uh, set up this. Oops. This is supposed to be not in the way to start. So, another really amazing part of our NERSC website is our center status page. I think right now it's actually maybe not working because um, Iris is down. I don't actually remember. I meant to check this. I didn't expect it to be down this morning. But normally this is up and it's showing this fantastic dashboard of everything, all different parts of our of our nurse ecosystem, and what's up, what's down, what's working, what's not working, if there's any outages, if there's, and another really important thing is these scheduled outages. So as you can see, we have a couple going on today. So if you're ever unsure of what's going on with the system, the first thing to do is actually go to nurse.gov and then go to center status. It's actually this button right here at the top. So it's always visible to you on the NERSC webpage. So you can always click on this center status and get to this webpage here. The really cool thing is there's a little button here to get definitions of these things. So if you're ever unsure, like, I don't know what any of these things mean, please go and check out the definitions webpage. That's really helpful, especially as a new user when you don't even know what all of these things are. That can be really helpful. And another thing is checking for upcoming outages. And so I have my little top tips. Oops. That was here. So my two sort of top tips are bookmark the center status webpage. So you can either keep it in your bookmarks bar, or if if you now you know how to access it really fast, please check this frequently when something doesn't seem to be working the way you expect it to. It might just be a temporary little blip. It doesn't mean that something is like permanently broken or something is broken at all. Maybe, sometimes the little nodes have little hiccups or something like that. And so in general, if the system is working and then you run into a little hiccup, like just, wait a second, log out, log in, and it should be fine. That doesn't happen very often. But if for some reason it did, this especially happens. So if you're using Jupyter, every once in a while, the system that's actually running Jupyter in the background, which is spin, which is running another thing, that thing every once in a while like just has to like refresh, and it can occasionally kick you out for a second or two and then it comes back. And somehow a lot of people happen to see that happen because they're like working or something. And it doesn't mean that your process that you were running in Jupyter has failed or died or anything like that. It just means like the web page that you're seeing of Jupyter might kind of crash for a second, and then you can actually get it back. So I often tell people like, hey, just keep an eye on this web page, because if it says that everything is up and running, it just means you need to like wait a second and like refresh. It doesn't mean anything's broken. Sometimes we get tickets and people are like, oh, it's not working, and it's like just wait like 5 minutes. Another thing you can do is you can actually subscribe to this outage calendar. So this is a screenshot, but if you scroll down here, you can subscribe to it. So I have, I mean, I work here, so obviously I have it in my calendar. But when I was a grad student and I was using NERSC systems, I also had it in my calendar. For a while, what would happen is I always had like a bunch of stuff to do on the system, and then I would go to log in and it would be an outage day. And I'd be like, how does this keep happening? And it's just because I never really kept track of the fact that Corey, which was the previous system, the maintenances were always on Wednesdays, and somehow Wednesdays were like my productive day. And what I needed to do was have it in my calendar so I would know, okay, Corey's going to be down for 6 hours today. I need to have something else lined up that I'm going to do on Wednesday. So put that in your calendar, and then you'll know, hey, every once in a while we have to do maintenance. It means the system's not available to you. Okay. And last but not least, make sure you join our Slack. It's a good way to reach out to other people, talk to other people who are using the system, be part of the user group. As Rebecca mentioned, it's not something that we check regularly or we are always responding to every question. But it is a good way to know, like, if you have a quick question and probably there's a user who can answer it, you can ask those questions there. And lastly, we have our annual meeting coming up, and actually Vijaya Lakshmi is one of our speakers, so I'm so glad to see you here.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you want to hear their talk, you should absolutely register for the meeting, and you'll get to hear about their amazing work. You'll get to hear about the amazing work of a lot of our users, and you'll get to hear more about the new system that will be coming up soon. N10, as we call it, it's our 10th system. Well, it's not exactly the 10th system, but it's sort of our 10th big system, I think. But it's going to be called Doudna. That's the name of the new system. And we're going to have actually a full presentation and an hour Q&A about that new system. So make sure you're there for that. The in-person registration is actually closed at this point, but remote registration is open. So with that, and you can find that information on the NERSC.gov website, but I also did drop the website for the actual meeting in the chat at some point. Okay, I think that is actually it for this presentation. Are there any questions?